So today, let's talk about the uncommon meanings in geomancy. Some uncommon meanings of house in geomancy. What do I mean by uncommon meanings of houses in geomancy? You see, in geomancy, each of these houses, this house 1, house 2, house 3, house 4, house 5, and so on and so forth. We have 16 houses, and all of these houses has popular meanings. They have the house to which they stand for. Aha. So, like for instance, this is house of self, the house of the person asking question. Why this house of money, finance, and so on, money, finance, and so on and so forth. So we all have houses. now, now I said uncommon. There are so many of houses that are not commons, that are not easily found out there, except when you meet with people who practice the people who practice geomancy often and well. That is when you find this common meaning with them. Yeah. So now the essence of telling you this uncommon meaning is to aid your understanding about the geomancy, because the more you understand the meaning of house, the more you understand how to use geomancy to answer questions. Taking for instance, when you don't know the meaning of houses, or the house that is related to the question you are asking about, you may not be able to figure out how to answer that questions. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to ask question related to finance. You know that this is the house you are dealing with, or this is the dominant house that you are dealing with. Not that every other houses cannot talk about this particular question related to finance, but this is the dominant house. This is the what? This is the gullible of that question. This is the this is the major target of that question, because you're asking question related to finance. You understand? Now, because you know this is the house of finance, it is easy for you to go to that particular house and be able to find out the answer you are trying to understand by interpreting the figure you found there, or by using the method of perversion, or whatever. Aha, do you understand? Depending on the nature of the question you are asking about. But if you don't know the house, there's what we call querent and coincident. The querent is the person asking question, while the coincident is the person or things you are inquiring about. So you already know that when anybody asking question, this is the house of the person, this is house one. Then there are certain things you want to ask about. If you do not know the house that's primarily concerned with that question, you may not be able to know how to figure out the question. You may not know where to go to, because we have 16 houses. So if you are familiar with geometry, you should already know some of these, at least some meaning of these houses. So now the primary purpose of this video is just to highlight some uncommon meaning of some houses on the wall on this geometry chart. So I want to talk about some of the meanings of this house that are not common. Not all of them. I just want to pick out some, and probably maybe in the other videos, in the other some other time, if time permit, I might also bring out some others. But for now, I want to highlight some. So now I want to talk about this particular house and some other houses as well. So let me start from house 5. House 5, we all know, is house of pregnancy, child, and so on and so forth. But there's something unique about this house 5 that is not common, that is not well known, which is what? Oxygen. This house is also what? House of what? Oxygen. It's a house of what? Ears. On the hairs, the common hairs. I mean ears. But the air this particular house is talking about the air we breathe in. The air we breathe in. This is house of what? Ears. That is AIR. That is what I mean by air. This is house of air. House 5 is also house of air. But the air this is primarily concerned about is the air we breathe in. So it is house of the ears. It's also house of oxygen, this place. So if your question asks to do with what, how a person is breathing, maybe the person is not breathing well, or something related to that, blah blah blah, like that. So this is the primary house concerned with what, breathing, and anything related to what, oxygen. This is house 5. So let's move on. It's more than so I just want to highlight some for this particular video. Now let's move on to this particular house. So this is house 8. We all know the common meaning of house is house of death, house of war, fear, and so on and so forth. So let me also bring another uncommon meaning of this particular house, which is not common. This house is also house of war, fire, and this particular house, it is also house of fire. But be mindful, there are different kind of houses on this particular on the 16 geometry chart that talked about fire as well. It's not only house 8 that talked about fire. But I also talk about another house that talk about fire too. But let me first of all talk about this particular house 8. So house 8 talks about it's also house of fire, but it's talking about house of fires that has to do with what let me put it this way, let me use a proper word. It's house of a burning fire. A fire intended to use to burn something or to destroy something. So this is house of what? Fire. House of fire, fire, a burning fire. Eh, so this is also house of or anything that has to do with what burning. So burning fire or fire that is intended. They have sorry. So it's house of fire that intended to be used to burn something. Do you understand that? So that is for this particular house. Let me use that opportunity to talk about another house of fire as well. So the another house of fire apart from house 8 is house what? House 14. House 14. This is house 14. So another house of fire is what? House 14 is also house of what? Fires. But this kind of fire is not that kind of fire that is intended to use to burn some things. Let me use an example. In Africa, there's when we want to light they were during the time when there was no electricity. When there was no electricity, there's something we usually use to generate light. We'll burn it. We use it to that kind of light. I think my African people will understand this particular aspect. That kind of light that was generated by burning something. This is the house that talk. I'll say it is the house that talk about that kind of light. That we are burning something in order to generate that light. Sometimes you burn sticks or some thread in order to for there to be brightness in the room. And that kind of light is called is this is the house that has to do with that. You understand? Let's say there was a burn. Let's say you heard about the news that a house was burnt. So you want to know maybe somebody lighted it in order to get it burned, or it was an electric light that burned the house. So this is the house that talked about that it was burnt by somebody lighting something in order to get it burned. I'll say while house 14 is the house that talked about electricity. Nothing is burning. It's like a current. Do you get it now? Like a current. So it is current, you understand? And so that's house 14. So house 14 kind of light. This house 14 light is talk about like lightness, like brightness of something. You understand? So house 8 and house 14 talks about fire. But house 8 talked about a burning fire. Why this one talks about light? If just fire. You understand? So fire. This 14 talks about fire too, but that fire that house 14 talks about is not intended to be used to burn something. You understand, ba? So let's move on. So let me talk about some other houses. So let me talk about house 16. Some uncommon meaning of house 16. Some uncommon meaning of what? House 16. So house 16 also talked about house 16 is house of ends, the house of sentence, the house of the aftermath of something. You understand? But that is what common meaning of house was 16. But let me add an uncommon meaning of this particular house is what the uncommon meaning of this particular house 16 is house of what again? It's house of something that happens in your absence. It's house of something that happened in your absence. Let's say you are in a particular state and somebody is talking about you in where you are not. And this is the house that I talked about. You want to know what is happening behind you, what people are doing behind you. This is a house 16. Is a house to which you can use to unlock that information. So it's house of war, something that happened in your absence, something that happened in where you are not. I think I'm something that happened in where you are not. So that is our system. So I hope I've been able to cover some point and you are able to learn one or two things in this video. So may your life never be useless as you like, comment, or share my video. And thank you very much for watching it from beginning to this extent. Thank you very much. May God be with you.